Hey everybody, welcome to my favorite shitty movie. It's me, Egg Anderson. Excited to take a little summer vacation in February. It's raining out right now and it's cold, and I'm going on summer vacation in Nantucket with One Crazy Summer. It's the second in the Savage Steve Holland comedy movies of the 80s. The first one being Better Off Dead, which our guest tonight, Scott Trulli, who's a guitarist, he wanted to do Better Off Dead, but it turns out we'd already done Better Off Dead with Wendy Sweetlove, who's also a musician. So I'm developing a new theory about musicians loving Steve Holland, Savage Steve Holland. And tonight we talk about this, John Cusack and Demi Moore. Look, they're adorable. Look how adorable they are. They're so cute. This movie, I've seen it a million times, and I watched it again, and it's so breezy. The 93 minutes goes by in a flash. There's so many delightfully dumb comic bits, and Savage Steve, he's good at the pacing. He's good at the pacing. I gotta bring on my co-host, who is normally it's Tracy Mercer, but Tracy Mercer is very busy producing a movie with Mia Jovovich. I think that's how you say Mia, or is it Mila? I don't know how you say her name. But I did the other day. I watched, because Tracy told me she was doing a movie with her. I watched all the Resident Evil movies again last weekend, because I've been stuck at home. My poor wife has COVID, so I've been taking care of my wife. So it was a good excuse to watch Resident Evil movies again. But Mark Haynes is here in her stead. He's a writer. He's a producer. He loves shitty movies as much as I do. Please welcome Mark.
Hello, Todd. Hello,
Hello.
Egg. Sorry, Egg. I stand corrected.
Yeah, Egg. Yeah, I like to use fake names. It's oh, you got the Mondo in there. Yeah,
That's well, that's the only thing I could think of when I was going back through it. I knew I had, it was kind of like a 50-50, more like 70-30, that you would have somehow work Egg into your
right.
title here.
Well, I'm a huge Bobcat Goldthwait fan.
I am too.
I love him. I've seen him do stand up a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Dating back to the early 90s when he performed at NYU.
Yeah.
I just love him. I think he's so great. And I love his movies too that he directs these days. Yeah. So
well, it's
had
funny because having seen his stand up, when you go back to watch these movies, it's like they're not letting him do this much.
Yeah.
They just want that the guy from Police Academy, or whatever, his first kind of one where he was that kind of spastic.
Which was a thing that he developed doing stand-up comedy because he had severe stage fright.
Mm-hmm.
And he has fear of people, so, and the way he would get through it is like make those crazy noises, and it just became, he folded it into his act. And then Police Academy.
Well, who is his sidekick that played his brother in this movie? Let me see. I had it right here.
I don't know that dude's name.
Tom Villard.
Was he a stand-up guy too?
I don't know if he was a stand-up guy, but he kind of perfected this sidekick persona that is in this movie. It's in a lot of his movies through this era, and he's always, he's like a goofy, sweet type character, not just like a goofy, make fun of this person character.
Right.
So, anyway, this movie, the waves of nostalgia matched the waves on Nantucket Beach there. So
yeah, totally. I love
there he is. Yeah, Jeff with the answer.
Oh yeah, he played Profile on Heartbreak Ridge, the Clint Eastwood picture.
Yeah, he was one of his Marines. Yeah,
that had Mario Van Peebles in it.
It sure did.
Director of New Jack City and star of Solo, not the Star Wars one.
No.
Let me bring on our guest who
Yeah.
selected our film, the One Crazy Summer Lover. He is a guitarist. He is a guitarist for hire. He's a solo performer, and he teaches at the Berklee Music School. Ladies and gentlemen, I grew up calling him Scott Torelli, but now he goes by Scott Terulli.
Hey, how's
There
it
he
going?
is.
There he is.
Hey,
Scott.
guys. I feel so
Welcome.
boring with my name.
Oh,
Look up Scott.
That's
we
all
should
right.
we should start telling guests that to have a name from the film.
Yeah, yeah. But although it's better if our guests have their actual name, because
That's
you
true.
know,
That's true.
people know we're jerks, Mark, but they don't know that about Scott. They need to know Scott's name. So Scott, the first thing we ask all our guests is this: can you define what makes a great bad movie for you? What is a great shitty movie for Scott?
Well, I think they have to be memorable, like quote wise. It could be nonsensical. It could be shot poorly. It could even be kind of hysterical when it doesn't mean to be hysterical.
Uh-huh.
There's different times that I'll say a movie was terrible, but I'm like, I'd watch that again. And then there's some that you're sorry you ever saw, right?
Right. Yes, I can name a number of those.
Right.
Yeah, and it's always interesting when we get a comedy movie, on the show, because I think it's easier to pick a great shitty movie if the movie is very earnest, and everybody's playing it super straight and it's ridiculous, despite their performances. Whereas this, and I would even argue maybe this isn't really a shitty movie, but I'm sure you can make the argument that it is. For me, the thing cooks. It's like 90 minutes. It's over in a blink of an eye. I just have a lot of fun watching it, and all this huge cast, all these great comic actors, comedians. Friggin' Rich Little shows up for a second, and all those like sort of Easter eggs before there were Easter eggs elements I really like about this movie. But also, this is something that I miss. I really miss about comedy movies is that, like, this is 93 minutes. There isn't a minute that's not packed with multiple stupid jokes.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like you don't have time to rest. I think Savage Steve Holland really took a page from the Zucker brothers and Jim Abrams in that he's just like trying to put as much silly into the minutes that he could. And that's one of the things that I love about this movie and Better Off Dead.
I'd forgotten about that kind of that pacing of these types of movies, the teen comedy of the 80s. And this one, like you were saying, it's like some of them they don't go for the visual gags that Holland did.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases. And then of course one of the most interesting things to me is that I did not remember at all the animated segues. I knew that John Cusack's character was a cartoonist, and I knew that it was in the beginning, but I didn't know that they came back to it multiple times through the movie, which I thought was kind of neat.
Yeah, that's cool.
Maybe I don't know if it was one of the first times that had been done, but I think he animated that stuff, or at least designed those characters, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he did. The only other movie I can think of like that came after this that started with a cartoon sequence for no reason was Weekend at Bernie's Part 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there was a kind of weird animated credits on Ruthless People, but it wasn't.
Oh yeah, you're right.
It wasn't specific characters though, I don't think.
No, that is sort of interesting. Scott, why don't you sort of like guide us through the narrative of this movie? Like how, and yeah, how does it, well, it starts right with the aforementioned cartoon. Who are these cartoons?
Well, so he's the rhinoceros, and during the movie, it's kind of like the bunnies are the world. Either they're laughing at him or it's kind of like what he's feeling. It's kind of it's kind of what happened from Better Off Dead, if you remember, the same thing. And he would draw his feelings out. So it's kind of the same things with the bunnies, you know. And of course they get decapitated later on.
Those animals meet some serious what would be PG-13 animated.
That's right.
Like back then, like that scene where he's like riddling all the bunnies with bullets. I mean, like seeing that is like, that's why I wanted to see, you know, Heavy Metal and Fritz the Cat. And here it's a PG movie, and you get the gory cartoon. I found that interesting.
I mean, the movie did get a lot of grief when it came out, but he, you know, for all of the kind of, you know, bits that he shoved into every single minute and every single frame of this movie, Holland was breaking some ground, you know. I mean, I think that stuff that people would do later, you know, and attempt to do in a more serious fashion and miss, where I think it works perfectly well here.
Yeah, that's true. The story I always heard about Better Off Dead was that he initially wrote it because, you know, this is a goofball comedy about a suicidal teenager,
right?
Which is super interesting. But apparently, like, he had written this thing that was supposed to be a dramatic representation of his experience as a high school student, where he had these suicidal thoughts and all that. But everyone who read it thought it was fucking hilarious. So he was like, well, maybe I'll make it a comedy movie. And,
well, he was kind of counter programming John Hughes at that point, you know, where all of his well-adjusted upper middle class suburban children, you know, didn't have any of these hangups. They were just so cool and cruised between the rules and never got in trouble. And then meanwhile, there's people like Holland who then puts it into his movies where, you know, yes, kids, people did struggle in the 80s too, but clearly it was funny.
Well, with Better Off Dead, I would say the theme of that movie, I always called it like, you know, the character's just born to lose. I mean, they stretch it out so ridiculously. You know, it's like you have to understand with both of these movies too, they suspend reality a lot, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's absurdist. So much of it is absurdist. Like, you know, I mean, it just starts with, you know, it comes out of the cartoon, and you see the cartoonist played by John Cusack talking to his cat and missing baskets with his you know, crumpled up paper balls. And the cat, when he sends the cat away, the cat crawls into its like kitty litter thing, which has a bunch of tiny animal head trophies on the side of it. Like, it's like, okay, we're being silly. This is silly. This is teenage.
And it tells you off the bat what you're dealing with from here on out. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
The rest, you know what's coming after that.
The tone is set. If you don't like that joke, you're in trouble.
Right.
It's like in Better Off Dead, the mom's cooking, but there's like an octopus like with tentacles in the background, you know. It just gets like, you know, there's scenes in both movies that just what is going, like, some of it's ridiculous, and then some of it's just completely suspending reality, and nobody notices.
Yeah. You know? Well, and we buy it because they buy it. Yeah. You know, and so like, okay.
So, and then and then there's a little thing like the name of the town that he lives in is generic.
Yeah, which I just was like,
I got to get out of generic.
I was in my kitchen, and I just caught that when I heard it on the voiceover, and I just kind of did one of these to look out into the living room where it was playing, and I saw that it was generic. And then later, when he goes to pick up his sister at the elementary school, of course, it's generic elementary school.
Yeah, they have to get out of generic. In the graduation scene, which like kind of propels us into the plot. Like, he tells his friend, "Who's the guy who is that a Murray or not?"
Oh, Joel. Yeah, Joel Murray. He's one of the Murray brothers. Yeah.
That's Joel Murray. Okay.
Yeah.
I got drunk with him at a karaoke place one time.
did his smile do the thing it does in the movie that it just kind of keeps moving to the side, depending on like how charming he's trying to be? You know? I mean, he pops up all over the place, but between him and Brian Doyle Murray, it's like there's a lot of instances where people die of medical order. I was looking at Jeff's comment there. Sorry.
Did you ever notice people die in alphabetical order?
there are some 10 out of 10 lines in this movie.
That was great.
but Joel Murray, it's funny because he, and very much like Jim Belushi, would come in and you'd be like, that's almost like having their more famous sibling. Like it pushes it over the line into like, that guy's familiar, but I don't remember where I saw him.
All four Murray brothers are in Scrooged.
I didn't realize all four were. Oh, okay.
Yeah, Brian Doyle Murray plays his dad in a flashback.
Yeah,
and then Joel and the other one,
they're in the party scene.
They're in the party scene with the
He's one of Bill Murray's brothers plays his brother in the film, right?
Yes. Yeah. That's not Joel. That's the other one,
right?
And I can't remember his name. Damn it, John. Maybe it's John. I feel like it's
what the Wikipedia page says.
Anyway, so Scott, so we go to go to the graduation. I wanted to highlight this joke because it's so like one of the most memorable jokes in this movie is when they throw their caps off, and then the guy sitting next to or standing next to John Cusack gets a cap in his back.
Yep,
which kills him. This is a joke. This kid is killed by a cap, and he's a ginger character too. Look at that. And it's such a dark, the way John Cusack like places him down and just backs away, like I don't know what to do.
Well, at first he thinks he's hugging him because he falls in there,
and then he's like, "What?"
Well, this of course follows up the gag where the mom washed his Gap and gown, so it's smaller than everything else. Yeah. So.
It's so dumb. I love dumb humor. It just makes me happy. So then what happened? So they're at the graduation, and he sees he got a tractor as a car.
It's like a Zamboni or something.
Cars, and then they reveal just this tractor sitting there. It's so boring to lose because he's like, he's not surprised.
Yeah. So when are we leaving for Nantucket? He says, and then they go get the sister at the elementary school. One of the details I love is that Joel Murray's car has a dead Christmas tree still tied to the roof.
That's right.
Well, and it's the line that he says getting inside. When he's getting in, he says something about his attention to detail. And so this is where you realize that the frequency of the gags are not going to give you a break at all.
No. Yeah.
Like they are just going to be every single thing.
Well, and I also love gags like the Christmas tree on the roof gag because you hang with that gag for multiple scenes.
Yes.
Right. You're hanging with it. It's just a car with a dead tree on top and it's hanging with a gag. And then we get the sisters and her dog are crossing the street, right?
Yes. And this dog gets a lot of grief throughout the movie.
Yeah, well, the dog's got the cone of shame on him.
Yeah.
And he looks.
I don't believe there was any explanation for, right?
What?
I don't believe there was any explanation for the dog having the cone.
No, he's just a messed up dog. Like,
and the sister's name is Squid, which is just kind of hysterical, and that's what I should have put.
There you go.
So Scott, tell us what happens at the school before Squid winds up getting in the car.
Oh yeah, like all our classmates start laughing at the dog and picking on it. And on
Yeah,
her.
and then there's those two really bratty girls who make faces.
Oh yeah, and then so and I don't know why I laughed so hard the first time I saw this. So they were informed if somebody hits you on the back, your face will stay that way.
Well, they're making faces at the dog and Squid. Yeah.
And then who was it that came up and I forget who tapped them
Oh,
both on the
well,
back.
Squid left the dog and then she walked kind of around. The implication
yes.
is she walked around the side and just did
That's
one
right.
of those.
And they turned around and then they screamed and then they looked at each other and screamed.
Right.
That's right. That's right.
Well, one of them had like a toy, like a Cabbage Patch Kid, that's face was stuck that way too. This is very Twilight Zone reference here.
I was just going to say that it looks like that Twilight Zone where the people.
Eye of the Beholder is that episode.
Yes, Eye of the Beholder.
All the sci-fi nerd shit behind me. Because it's like if I didn't answer that, I would be in trouble.
They really do look like that.
Yeah.
So then
I was gonna say I love how Squid's also just so deadbeat the whole time.
Oh my god.
You know, I hate to jump ahead, but you know, when it's like grandma gives her the doll and she just feeds it to the doll.
Oh yeah. Squid is cold. Like she's just, you know, she's brutal.
She's a psycho, man.
But nobody notices. Like the grandma doesn't do anything. Didn't think it was inappropriate. Like,
well, it's funny because like in this era of people having, you know, service animals and stuff, the fact that she never lets the dog go, like she comes out of school with the dog, and you're kind of like, in 1986, that was funny. That was weird. Like, why would she have this dog? And you know, people would be making fun of her. And now, of course, she would have a legal case against somebody making fun of her for having the dog. But
that's true, actually.
Yeah, there's a legal case for anything like that.
Well, that's true. Well, sometimes that's not even necessary before.
Gina Carano's suing Disney finally.
What
is that still going on? I thought that would have been.
She's filed lawsuit against Disney for wrongful termination just now, even though it's been a couple years since she. Somebody on social media somewhere like pointed out, it's like, oh, I guess the far right Christian movie money dried up, so now she wants to come back to Star Wars. So what happened?
What's funny is she was actually pretty good in that role too. You know, that like it was a role that was kind of, you know, because she was kind of the same in all the other things that she had been doing, so that somebody finally said, let's write a role that is her, so when we put her in it, it will work. And you know, and she's hit the top at that point. She's collecting the major paychecks and all of that kind of stuff. And you know, I am 100% a supporter of people expressing themselves, but you should check your contract before you do that, especially if you're working for Disney, you know, in terms of how free you actually are going to be with that speech.
But, once you're collecting Disney movie or Disney show money, I recommend not posting anything political at all on social media.
You know what's funny is the same goes with the music projects. Anything to do with Disney or what was like what's Hannah Montana? What's her name?
Oh, is that
Miley Cyrus?
Miley Cyrus. So and then she was associated with some show, right? She was some of these singers were like,
it was a Disney show,
yeah. So I had a friend that toured with a couple of these singers, and they had strict rules, like band rules. No women in the hotel. You can't drink in public. You know, you as a band member can't be seen doing anything, and that's in their contract as a band member. You know, that's because the press will get like, you know, the drummer for so and so was drunk and having good women, and so it's the same in the music business as you're just saying. I think there's specific things you have to sign.
Disney makes you sign a lot of NDA and behavior stuff before you work with them, which, you know, I'll take it. I want the money. Can I sue Disney for not casting me at all?
Yeah.
Or do you have to work for them and get fired before you can do that? So anyway, in One Crazy Summer, they get in the car and they stop at a gas station, right?
Yes.
Uh,
Scott, over to you. That's so they stop at the gas station. And I think that's
what happens at the gas station.
where they meet up with Demi Moore, right?
Oh, Cassandra.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
Oh, that's right.
She hides money in a paper towel dispenser in the gas station men's room.
Bathroom. Yeah.
And
That's right.
And there's this giant guy with a dumb purple wig on.
Well, it's pink and spiky. And he is because that a pink spiky wig was common for the leader of a motorcycle gang in the 1980s, kids. It was a very strange time.
It was a very strange time,
especially in film. And this is so he's, of course, everybody ends up in the men's bathroom.
Yes.
Demi Moore, John Cusack, and this motorcycle gang.
And so John Cusack's getting the paper towels out, right? Because he's washing his hands.
Yeah.
And these money start to come out.
Oh my God, John! I have to point out that Jeff says that the head of the biker gang, the lead biker, was the guy that played Sloth in Goonies, which is just the best piece of information.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Actually. I totally recognize that guy.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's awesome.
That would have been around
really good in Sloth. He should have gotten an Academy Award, Best Supporting Actor, for that. But they gave it to Anne Ramsey instead. No, they didn't give it to her. She got it for Throw Mama from the Train. So anyway, so they're in the bathroom, and what happens? She's hiding in a stall, and and then
he finds the money.
Yeah, Cusack finds the money, right?
Yeah, Cusack does, and he's like, "What the hell?" Right? And then,
well, the bikers have her cornered, right? In the stall.
Well, the bikers kick in,
yeah,
right, and then and then so he's pulling this stuff out. So he's like, hey, you looking for this? Right, I think right, and then
and then they chases them out and essentially saves her life by
throws all the money. He's like, he throws it.
Right.
And I was like, the first thing I was like,
the plot unfolds is like that money would have been important to hang on to.
Yeah, it would have been good to hang on to. Yeah,
if he hadn't thrown that money, then there would have been no need for the rest of the movie.
That's right.
Right.
Everything would have been fine.
Even more. Well, that's of course why he had to throw the money away. But I feel like occasionally the how tightly the plot hangs together might have been in second place behind what was cool or funny to put to put on screen.
Yeah, gags first.
That's not a complaint. That is not a complaint.
No, yeah. So then they get in the car, and Joel Murray and John Cusack are saying, "Let's go. We gotta go. Yeah. And then who pops up behind them?
Yeah,
in the back.
I like the beer can in front of the steering wheel. That's awesome. We got Sprite, Diet Coke, and Miller. It looks like.
That's a great way for it's a great meet cute moment, right?
Yeah,
for a romantic comedy, you're running from a biker gang and you're in the same getaway car, and then you meet.
Yeah, right.
When has that ever happened in any other movie? No, none.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, and the movie only goes up from here. I mean,
oh my God, yeah.
We haven't even gotten.
Yeah, I mean, you end up. I mean, very quickly from that point, they end up jumping a limousine onto the Nantucket Ferry.
Well, the bridge is going up.
It's just the car. Yeah. It's the car with the Christmas tree on top. It's
yes.
But the bikers don't make it.
The bikers don't make it, and Sloth.
Clearly, that car didn't make it. They cut it before.
No, it's such a bad edit.
You're like, okay, this is movie magic, kids. This is how they do.
One car went into the water, and another car that looked just like it got into the boat.
But of course, it precipitates the biker gang going into the drink as well. They're like, we can make it. We can make it. No, we can't. We're getting in the water.
Yeah.
And when the leader comes up with his pink spikes, there's a fish kind of wiggling on
Yep.
on one of the spikes in his hair, which of course is like, because you'd seen the previous bits, that's hysterical.
Yeah.
You knew it. You're just like, oh God, come on. It was hysterical in the 80s, and now you're just like, oh my God, that's hysterical. You know?
We have to remember we were set up that this car's a piece of crap with a
Yes.
dead tree on it, you know, and
Yeah.
the fact that it's good, you know, nobody would make that, you know, and the fact that the car, we're to believe that, you know, made it, and you know, the biker gang, it's cartoonish in that way, and especially ending up with a fish in his spike,
Yeah.
you know, in his hair.
That car jump is very Blues Brothers.
Okay, yeah.
Blues Brothers has
Absolutely.
tons of those where you're like, how did that? And that didn't work. That's not real.
There were quite a few of them. I mean, the proliferation of Ray-Ban sunglasses in film after that movie came out, you know, and it was just after Blues Brothers came out, and of course the junker car that, you know, the cool underdog anti-hero would drive. It became a trope of those movies as well, and a beloved trope, by the way.
It's a great trope. But now we have the Lincoln lawyer. So things are different.
Are you talking Matthew McConaughey or the Netflix one?
It doesn't really matter. It's the same dumb property.
The show is actually not that bad as legal procedurals go.
I'll watch the movie whenever. I'm happy to watch the Lincoln. I enjoy it, but it's dumb.
All right.
So then we're on this ferry where we're learning that John Cusack is terrified of boats.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a nice little soulful conversation with Cassandra. And then the Murray brother jams a chili dog in his face.
And this is one of the instances where you start seeing this through the movie, is that, you know, most movies there's kind of they try to do an ease of shifting tones between scenes that are comedic versus ones that are more serious. They didn't even worry about that in the 80s, kids. I mean, it was really just kind of like, we're going from high comedy to the kind of intense teenage romance scene.
We're going to break up the romance with a guy jamming a chili dog. Here's a dog.
Because it's Joel Murray.
Now, I'm pretty sure this is Demi Moore's first movie.
I think it is. I think you're right about that.
I think
Yeah,
so.
I think this was the first one. Yeah,
at least the first starring situation.
Or did Parasite come first? I think I'm not sure. Let
me check the tricorder here.
Parasite 3D, I felt like was one of her first movies, but maybe she got that. That was a Charles Band, low budget Charles Band movie. But maybe he saw her.
She was in Young Doctors in Love, uncredited.
Oh,
this is actually her sixth movie.
What?
This followed St. Elmo's Fire in 1985.
Are you kidding?
Wow.
Yeah, so her previous movies starting in 81, Choices. 1982, she did Parasite and Young Doctors in Love. 1984, she did Blame It on Rio and No Small Affair.
Oh, Blame It on Rio.
Saying almost far. This feels like it was like a contract thing. Like she had movie. She had a movie left on her deal, and then About Last Night was. It preceded this.
Wait, About Last Night was before this one also.
Yeah.
Oh my God! I mean, we're talking about
what was the same year? She did 3 movies that year. She did About Last Night, One Crazy Summer, and Wisdom.
So it went from like a mammoth kind of play to.
I mean, she's starting
with like a descending order of quality.
I know. Emilio Estevez, Tom Skerritt, and Veronica Cartwright were her co-stars in Wisdom. I mean, you know, kudos to her agent. But like at some point, this movie, I was watching this movie with regards to John Cusack, you know, because 3 years later he's doing Say Anything is his you know, kind of one where I think that really pushed him farther out into like kind of a, you know, legit film star kind of thing. I feel like this was his Do Anything phase, you know. I mean,
Well, I mean, like he did the Sure Thing before
Yeah.
this, right?
Yeah.
Which
well, I
is
mean,
a
gosh, he was as a child, wasn't he doing some things?
yeah. He was yeah. He's never been in touch with reality. John Cusack.
Well, I mean, the thing that I never understood, and this is seriously public, is he walked out on the screening of these films, and he hates these movies. And like I saw him on Inside the Actors Studio, and they didn't even mention those movies.
Oh wow.
And so, people keep asking him, do you like it? And, he's like, well, I guess they're not so bad, but like, he doesn't want to talk about them. He thought they ruined his career at the
Oh
time.
my gosh.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that
This
One-
career.
yeah, that career. Fuck that career.
Yeah.
He almost didn't get to do True Colors with James Spader. I remember after this movie, like he had, or during the process of this movie, I think he had a major falling out with Savage Steve Holland. And
Yeah.
he felt like he was being made to look like an idiot. So that's why he does not appear in the third of the Savage Steve Holland comedy trilogy. The last one being How I Got Into College.
I didn't know there was a third.
I didn't know there was a third
Is it
either.
clearly written for Cusack though when you watch it?
I mean, yeah, the lead guy in it is good. It's a funny movie. It's got Anthony Edwards and a bunch of good people in it. And it's really funny. But yeah, you can tell this was supposed to be Cusack, but Cusack was like, "Fuck off." Which, like, wow, what a great place to be in. To be just like, like, no, I don't want to do your movie.
And to storm out in the screening,
Yeah,
like,
I know.
To make a scene like that. I mean, is that normal? Like, he didn't know it. Was it edited in a way that he didn't know? Like, did he just randomly do scenes he had no idea what the movie was about?
Yeah, I mean,
Good question.
I mean, as I don't know how you guys feel about John Cusack these days, but I mean, like then he was, basically a teenager, so there is a lot of like hormonal stuff fucking up his brain and making him reactionary. And he was a movie star, so like,
Well, 5 out of the last 7 things he did were direct to video, so maybe this movie did kill his career.
Well, no, it didn't, because
that's a joke. That's a joke, everyone.
He is a big straight to video guy now. He's even done a couple of them with Nick Cage.
Are streaming films categorized as straight to video on this? I wonder.
I mean, I feel like
video on demand.
I feel like straight to streaming is just the new direct to video. Yeah. Anyway, so
Yes.
Let's get back on track. So we find out he's terrified of water
And chili dogs.
and chili dogs. And then when they get to Nantucket, they're greeted by these idiots.
Yep.
Yeah. Which, of course, they're shouting from the ship to the deck over all of these people. And what I like about this film, I have to point out here, if you allow me to jump in, Scott, is the fact that the people in between actually react. Unlike other movies where you would see people are just going about their business, it's like people are like, why are you guys yelling at each other? Like this guy in the red shirt here is clearly a lighting stand-in for the villain that comes later in the movie. But,
So we meet Egg and his brother, and then there's so much that happens when they get once they get off the boat. We meet so many characters
very quickly.
When they're getting off the boat. So we meet these guys. And
That's Egg and Clay. Clay on the left.
And Clay, right? And then we meet this thing.
Yep.
Which is a rabid dolphin in Foam 2, the sequel to Foam, which is shooting on Nantucket, much like the Jaws movie was shot off of Martha's Vineyard. What fun. And then we meet the bad guy.
Yep.
And his girlfriend. I love this moment when he gets Hoops, John Cusack, he's mad at him because he touched his car, and he hangs
Yes.
him up on like a nail or something, and then John Cusack's just hanging there, and then what's her name now? The girlfriend.
That is Cookie, played
That's
by
Cookie.
Kimberly Foster,
Right.
and
So
Ty is Teddy rather,
Teddy.
played by Matt Mulhern.
Yeah, Ty is John Cusack's former best friend. Right?
Really?
Yeah. What's his face? I'm blanking on his name. You know.
Oh no, Ty is Teddy's best friend, played by Jeremy Piven, who you'll see later in the film.
Oh, that's right.
Well,
Yep.
Who in real life he was like best friends with John Cusack.
Right,
Oh.
right.
And then they had a falling out. John Cusack has a lot of falling outs. I love this moment with
Very
Teddy.
intense. Very intense time.
I love this.
Sorry.
I love that moment with Teddy where he comes over and she's like dangling, like this is just we're just learning this is his thing, and it never happens again. It's just this
She calls him off by shaking the box of animal crackers.
And he comes and he goes like he's about to kiss her, and then he just grabs the box and just starts jamming them in his
aggressively.
I'll tell you, two of the best performances in this movie are those two, because they are fully involved in every scene that they're in, and it's great actually.
They're doing the whole 80s preppy sweater around the neck thing.
I know people that still dress that way today, and they wonder why it's a problem.
I had a friend who used to say, "What? They don't know how to put on a fucking sweater? Pull it over."
Well, you gotta like the thing I like about him and his father is they're like cartoonish characters.
Oh my god, yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. And the father, as played by the same guy who played Needlemeyer in Animal House.
Yeah, this is Mark Metcalf.
Is that your pledge pin? Yeah. And then we go so we meet all these crazy people on the dock. We meet the bad guys and the bad lady, and then the fun brothers, and then they go to Grandma's house.
That's right. Grandma, played by the wonderful Billy Bird.
Yes, Billy Bird,
who you got when you couldn't get Betty White in the 80s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because that was before Betty White had her resurgence.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Right. And she was busy on Golden Girls, right?
That's true. Well, that's true. Well, that's Billy Bird was the one who was out there using curse words in films. And that,
I'll bet she tested for. I bet she tested for Golden Girls and didn't get it.
She had to. It's like most of the Golden Girls were in their late 40s when that show was made.
I know. Fuck, I'm older than the Golden Girls.
I know.
I saw a meme today with Gene Stapleton and Carol O'Connor from All in the Family. She was 44 and he was 48 when that show was filmed. God. And I'm just like, clearly they didn't have the advances in green drinks that we have today. They keep us looking young. So
and they're not making shows like that anymore either. They don't make 50-year-old shows anymore.
That's right.
50-year-olds played by 40-somethings. So they're all right. We gotta get through this narrative.
Okay.
So they're at.
We never get through the movie. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know it's so hard because you get lost in the moments because this movie is chock full of moments. So we meet Grandma, and she loves the girl and not Joel Murray, which is a good bit. The way they play the grandma stuff, like use the grandma stereotypes but play against them, like when she charges them for dinner.
That's it, when she gives them a bill.
Yeah.
And everybody's just kind of, he's like, nah, I got this. But nobody thinks it's weird that like the grandma just put a bill down.
Nantucket, living on Nantucket's not cheap.
No, it's expensive as hell.
Even in the 80s it wasn't cheap.
No. And then the other person we meet when we first get to Grandma's house, of course, is Uncle Frank.
Okay. Yes.
Who's an obsessive. I think he's he's got PTSD from a war of some kind, and he's obsessive about winning $1 million.
That's right.
Which was a lot of money back then.
No, $1 million is a big deal.
Still a
Or
lot
he
of
was
money.
like chain smoking, listening to the radio to
Right,
win.
right.
Yeah.
$1 million now today would get rid of all of my stress. It would all be gone.
Yeah.
Well, there's a meme that circulates around where it says that the people that say money doesn't make you happy or something like that. It's like literally money would solve every problem that I have right now. So I'm like, I don't necessarily buy that.
Yeah,
Right.
money doesn't buy happiness. Well, then I guess I don't want to be happy. I want money.
Well, and I mean, $1 million in 1986. Of course, the freaking Ferrari that the other guy we were just talking about drives, Teddy. I mean, that was like a $45,000 car then.
Yeah,
It was.
So you're not bad. It's not bad.
Wow.
$1 million, pretty good.
Yeah.
$1 million is going to go a long way. I mean, not like I would take it. I would take the $1 million and go back to the mainland because it's going to go further than it will on Nantucket. But so, and maybe we'll see a clip of him later. So then we go to the
foreshadowing, kids.
Yeah, we go to the Army Surplus store.
Yes.
Which is run by SCTV alum.
Oh, Flaherty.
Flaherty, who's always great. Flaherty is like, he's not the most famous of the SCTV grads, but he was consistently funny on SCTV. Every time he turns up in a movie like this for a second, it's hilarious. He's always hilarious.
I mean, in 1981, there was the forgettable Spielberg. A lot of people say it's forgettable. It's one of my favorite movies, and I think maybe we might need to do it on an upcoming show.
Oh,
it's 1941, which is by any measure, it's like one of the last of these star-studded, sprawling, madcap kind of comedies. Unfortunately, it is completely laced with racism and misogyny and all of kind of. And you're like, Spielberg, like E.T. Spielberg did this movie. Flaherty is the host at a USO club in that movie, and he kills it. Like, he's not in many scenes, but he's just smoother than silk. Anyway, back to you. Sorry.
Wow. Yeah, he is. He's great. So we meet him because he's the dad of Booger from Revenge of the Nerds.
Right. Whose name is Ack Ack.
Yeah, Ack Ack. What's their relationship, Scott? Because
whose relationship?
The Ack Ack and his dad.
Well, the dad's super strict and like military like, and like the son, Ack Ack is just super soft and that's where they're like, they're having this uncomfortable conversation with the dad, and then it resolves to, well, he's on the beach picking up shells, and they go, well, that sounds more like him,
Which of course is not the shells that everybody might think at that point.
and they actually point something out in that scene, like they're following him around, and they go, why don't you just wait till they're done shooting them? And he's like, oh no, and like he has his reason why they're worth double if you get them like immediately or something. It was like,
that doesn't make any sense.
The part I love about that scene is that clear. You look at this and you're like, what was Savage Steve Holland the Zack Snyder of his time, where people were not examining his scripts too closely because they were like, here's the money, just go make the movie, and it's awesome because the parts that Curtis Armstrong was collecting on the beach would actually be back where it was being fired from, wouldn't be out where he was. But it's for the sake of the scene, you're like, fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Savage Steve Holland is not a gun nut or a military expert.
Right. And I'm a nerd for those things. So I just,
I'm glad you said that because I'm aware of that, but I didn't catch it. I never
Yeah,
caught that.
that's the part that would be ejected when they load the next
Right,
round.
right. It doesn't make sense that the shells are on the beach.
But you know, honestly, if you, when I was watching this scene earlier today, and watching the film earlier today, and this scene came up, and I thought, oh wait, this doesn't make sense because that would be back over here. And I'm saying this doesn't make sense after I saw a guy with a pink spiky hairdo come out of the water with a fish on the spike. And I immediately dismissed it because at that point you're like, none of this makes sense, but I'm still in. So let's, you know.
Yeah, it's fine. He's a delightful character. Here, you can see at the bottom of the picture there's a little doll hand, and he finds
that's right.
He finds the blown up doll and immediately becomes empathetic to some girl whose doll this was. Somewhere there's a little girl crying, and that
which tells us what we need to know. You know,
yeah, he's the sweetest guy ever.
That he's a bleeding heart while his father is, you know, the great Santini, the less great Santini,
which was a common thing in the 80s.
Sure.
If we grew up in the 80s, maybe our parents were into Reagan and we're like, what the fuck?
This was the beginning of the second Reagan term at that point. So
yeah,
if your parents weren't like this, you knew a kid whose parents were.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. You know, the 80s was very much, you know, when they were having those hearings to put ratings on albums.
Yeah, that was the beginning of that, right?
And it was
Tipper Gore, right?
What Tipper Gore. Yep. And but all that stuff was going on where it was kind of like the old stuffy people, and like they were growing up in the 40s and 50s, right? And you know, and then all this stuff coming out now, like a lot of the movies in the 80s, I think just represent like Footloose and Breakfast Club. It's just kind of like the mean parents against the kids.
Oh yeah,
you know, the teenagers. Like all of them.
I have a theory about Footloose.
Okay.
I mean, if you really pay attention to the narrative, Rand McCormick should be black because he's a really good dancer. He moves in from the city to this white town, and everyone hates him just on sight. It doesn't really make sense that it's Kevin Bacon. It should have been a black guy. I think it was written for a black guy, and then the studio was like, "No, we got to use a white kid." That's what I think.
Well, that's interesting, actually.
That you know, because I'm thinking about that movie now, and I'm also thinking about what was the movie with Julia Stiles as the dance student. Went into the school. It was kind of the reverse situation where she was going to the big city, wasn't it?
Right. I can't remember what the hell that was called, but I know you're talking about.
Yeah. Anyway, it's like the mirror universe version of Footloose. But the no, that's actually a very interesting theory, and may well be. It could be true.
It just to me, in my mind, it makes perfect sense that it the movie actually doesn't make sense. Why does everybody fucking hate Rand McCormick just because he's from out of town? That doesn't make any sense.
Right. All I will say is I have no ability to dance, but I moved to a town. I moved from a urban city, Baltimore, when I was 6 years old. We moved to the middle of nowhere in Maryland, rural Maryland, about 30 miles west and 25 years into the past. And when we moved there, it's like from the middle of first grade to the time I graduated high school, I completely felt like I was not part of this community in any way, you know. And it's that's like, as far as Footloose goes, I can kind of see a little bit of where, you know, because it's like there was an element of kissing cousins into the area that I moved at the time, but
like an urban.
But you're right. Well, but I think you are right about the level of, you know, people just like, you know, kind of reacting to
violence, just towards him.
Well, it's like they'd never seen a movie or a TV show, you know. At that point,
I know. Anyway, all right. So let's stop talking about Footloose. We got okay. So I'm gonna because it's already getting late. I don't want Scott to be up all night. He's
Oh
on
yeah,
East Coast
sorry,
time.
Scott. Sorry, Scott.
I'll just like bring us through some more of this narrative. So here's your evil dad character from Animal House telling his son that they've and then there's William Hickey, who's the grandfather, and they
And the money.
they need to win the regatta or they'll lose everything.
Mhm.
And he's telling his son not to screw it up. And then there's like a lovely scene on the beach where Cassandra explains to Hoops, all of her problems. And they talk at the boat. And he makes a cartoon for her. Well, it makes a drawing for her, but it looks like a cartoon to us. And then he gets stuck in the sand, and there's just that's a great summer visual comedy bit. I think. I don't know why John Cusack was mad about that. It's hilarious.
That is. That's
Because
amazing.
we've all
That's
been
so
there.
that
You've
was-
been standing like just where the water's lapping, and then all of a sudden you realize you're cemented in, and high tide is coming.
Maybe he hates it because he thought that's what was happening to his career at the time. But I don't. Sorry, John. Sorry,
Stuck in the mud.
John's
So-
a big fan of this show, or was.
It was.
Yeah.
So
We'll never work in this town again.
So then John
Newsflash, we're not working now.
Hoops is hanging out with the brothers and Curtis Armstrong and Booger. They're hanging out on the beach. And then Cookie comes and asks them to help get her boat in the water, which none of them want to do except for Hoops, because all of them are smart enough to know this is just work. This is just work. We're not going to get anything out of this. And then he winds up getting talked into a date. So he's supposed to go to Cassandra's gig at the Dewdrop Inn at the same time that he's supposed to get picked up by Cookie and taken to the drive-in. And he's about to go out to Cassandra, but then classically Cookie shows up in the door. We get the door opening and the reaction that you got in a lot of 80s movies, which is always enjoyable. So he goes to the drive-in even though he doesn't want to, and he gets seen by Jeremy
Piven. Yeah,
I think it's important to point out that in 1986, Jeremy Piven was already starting to lose his hair. And he's supposed to be a teenager at that point. I can say that. So, just so we're clear.
It was already happening for Jeremy Piven. So that happens, and then the thing I like about this entire drive-in sequence is it just cuts away to these gas station attendants dealing with grandma and the little girl and her dog, and these are two stand-up comics of the era. Taylor Negron on the right is Chuck Negron of Three Dogs Night's nephew.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and he's in all three of the Steve Holland movies from this era. In Better Off Dead, and
He's the mailman.
He's the mailman in this one. He's a gas station attendant. And Chuck Negron's. Actually, I met Taylor Negron a bunch of times before he passed away, because he would come in to talk to his cousin who I worked with at a sugar-free bakery and gift emporium. That's what the early 90s and in the Valley was like. It was
sugar-free bakery.
It was exciting. So anyway, then John Cusack is trying to avoid Cookie's advances. He said one of my favorite lines, I don't know why, is just the way he says, "I'll get us some treats."
Yeah.
Well, and also to point out that he had been asked by Demi Moore's character Cassandra to go see her show at the Dewdrop Inn,
right?
Which is the happening venue, which was not happening that much.
And he's stuck on a date. Not only that he'd rather be somewhere else, but also he doesn't want to be on this date because he doesn't want to get the shit kicked out of him by Teddy.
Right.
Correct.
And so he's trying to make as much space in between him and her as he can. And when he comes back with treats and she says, did you get my popcorn? My favorite visual gag of the movie is he just
We throw the giant bag of popcorn in there.
throws,
Awesome.
throws a giant industrial sized trash bag full of popcorn into the seat. It's great. And then like, so while all that bullshit is going on, we've got, did I freeze?
Just for a second.
Okay.
You said while all that bullshit is going on,
I lost Scott. Okay, we got there's a party happening where they're showing the model of what the evil guy plans to build, and also Bobcat Goldthwait is babysitting movie costumes for Foam 2, and he gets himself into a Godzilla costume that he can't unlock. Somehow the zipper's stuck, so he goes to the party where he's supposed to be so he can see if Teddy takes off and is going to beat the shit out of Hoops. And then the great William Hickey, who like was always an old raspy voiced guy smoking giant cigars.
Yeah.
Is having a giant cigar and he throws it into the mouth of the Godzilla costume that Bobcat Goldthwait is in. Like this,
William Hickey came out of the womb at 60 years old.
They're working so hard to get to this one visual joke. This is what I love about this movie.
That's Todd. I had the same realization as I was watching this today. I was like, they set this up like 10, 15 minutes ago.
They work so hard. They have crazy Bobcat Goldthwait like fucking around with costumes, getting stuck in one. They got the old guy with a cigar. And then what I thought was funny is in this sequence, like while that's happening, John Cusack is on the beach getting attacked by Cub Scouts, and he gets wrapped up in gauze. So you get a mummy. It got Godzilla and the mummy in the same sequence. It's like an old school monster movie sequence, which I really love that about it.
Well, I want to go back to one great line. The reason Bobcat got stuck in that outfit, so his big brother goes, "You stay here and don't touch anything." And I'll never forget, like, I'm really gonna, like.
And of course he's gonna.
And like, the first thing he does is like, he's like looking in the mirror and interviewing himself and like.
Yeah, and then he shows up at the club scene later with like an Elvis pompadour on. He just really ransacks the costume department and uses it all. So Cusack, after all that craziness, goes to the Dewdrop Inn. The gig is over. He's very sorry, but then the bad guys show up and they're about to kick his ass for dating Cookie. And then Demi Moore, Cassandra, says, "Well, what if we shoot it out? His name is Hoops. He's good at basketball," which has been firmly established. He's not good at basketball. So poor Booger has to play the basketball net in this horrible scene of bullying.
I see a question that's popped in from Tracy Mercer, who is watching.
Okay. Hello, guys. Question,
you, Tracy, by the way.
Hi, Tracy. Oh, nice. Question for you, fun gent. Is the first film that dramatized how best to write a college application?
The answer is yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? Why not? Anyway, back to trying to take us through as quick as we can. There's this recurring bit because they wind up back on the beach where Joel Murray winds up under a seat and a really large man. This is the second time. A really large man who walks around with a gigantic can of chili with meat and beans.
Yes.
And I guess I'm assuming that this isn't like a homophobic thing. It's they're arguing over doing mouth to mouth because his breath smells like farts. I assume, right? That's what this bit is. Farts. I don't know. I mean,
yeah. Well, the fact that he was he's actually credited. This is like Big Man on the Beach.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's his IMDb.
All
He's
right.
got stanky farts.
Yeah.
So that whole scene exists to get us to his great idea to make art selling Cassandra's music.
Oh, he's got quite a long list here. Sorry. I didn't mean it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
He's
that's
gotten
great.
around. So they make an animation that they show at the drive-in, and everyone
Mhm.
gets pissed at him because it's covering up what looks like to be a scene of a colonoscopy or a prostate exam happening like in the movie. And I'm like, what is the fucking movie that they're watching?
The Nantucket Drive-In featured like movies about VD and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh my god. So and while
Public
they're
health
doing
was
that,
no joke in the 80s, Todd. It was
no,
no
you're
joke.
right. You're right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. If that triggered anybody, I apologize. It was insensitive. So while these things are happening and they're getting ready for Cassandra's gig, they have to, they have to give a pep talk to Booger. This is one of my favorite bits in the movie because it's just so Bobcat Goldthwait, where he's telling, I'm going to keep calling him Booger. I'm sorry.
I mean,
Ak is his name in the film.
That's
Ak.
his name. Yeah, Ak. He's telling Ak this story to make him feel better about the problems he's having with his dad, and he's talking about like a obese child who is like bullied in school, and it's very sweet. And then Ak asks him, "Was that little boy you?" And then he goes, "No, I grabbed him and I said, why
I'm
are you
the one
so
that beat
fat?
him.
Why are
I'm
you
the one that beat him up.
I'm the one that beat him up. Exactly.
It's such a good cheap turn.
Oh,
It's the category of jokes that wouldn't make it today.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
Yeah, that would have been cut because bullying's not funny. But that was funny. And also Ak actually learns. He's like, no, that was actually really good. He really learned from it. And which
Yes.
is also funny. And then they shoot a bazooka at a dinghy and steal a truck full of lobsters. And they put it in the guy from Animal House's pool.
Yep.
And Teddy rather goes swimming and gets this scene. It has the best Ed Wood acting I've seen. The Ed Wood of like the actors trying to make these clearly plastic toys work is delightful, and the way they put one on the back of Cookie's like bathing suit.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Really just like stuck there.
Of course, Teddy, who you saw there, pulls her into the water. She's trying to pull him out.
Yeah.
He pulls her in.
Well, that's
He's
what
like,
happened.
I'm not going through this by myself.
Well, he's trying to save himself.
Right.
Yeah, he's trying to save himself, and
Yeah. This is actually a visual metaphor for the 2024 Trump campaign.
What?
When you think about it.
I was going to say, before you mentioned that, now I'm thinking about that, is that this is a bit of a callback to a scene earlier where we're introduced to Teddy's father, who delights in listening with a stethoscope when he puts a lobster into boiling water and listening to it scream, which, if you watch this film with the subtitles on, the lobster screaming is in the subtitles.
Metcalf is so fucking funny. Metcalf is so funny in this movie.
Well, don't forget Teddy has to like turn the wheel.
Yeah, he's behind the thing.
Yeah,
and he's like, in the
with
best line, how long do I have to do this? You will not stop until I learn how to properly use this thing. You know, in other words, he's just admitting he doesn't even know what he's doing.
It's great stuff. Yeah, I love Metcalf in this movie. I feel like Metcalf is like, because he was Niedermeyer in Animal House. He sort of has what's the name of the actress who played the Wicked Witch of the West?
Oh, Margaret Hamilton.
Yeah, Margaret Hamilton. I think it's been coined as Margaret Hamilton syndrome, which Louise Fletcher also had after One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and I feel like he had it. Metcalf had it because of Niedermeyer. Like, he can only get cast as this wicked, horrible thing. Yeah, and I'm sure he was capable of a lot more. Yeah. So, but goddamn, does he make hay out of this? All right, let me keep talking this through. So Cassandra has her gig. It's great. They make a lot of money. There are these backup singers, which I thought was weird.
There's a lot of weird costuming choices.
Like I just like are they, do they work at the club or they dress like this as backup singers? It's weird.
Well, they never explain where she finds musicians.
What?
Yeah.
What's also weird is the kind of the tough sleeveless shirts that the band is wearing, but they're playing like this kind of upbeat electronic music, which is kind of like it's to me anyway. I'm not a musician, but sorry, Scott. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's like it's funny because it's supposed to be like rock and roll, but it's obviously super cheesy, like almost to like like they meant to do it. Like
yeah.
Well, every time I see it, I just keep thinking of Bruce Springsteen and Clarence Clemens with the saxophone when they're doing their kind of like I'm rocking out with the saxophone, but it's like but you were also rocking out with the high top fade. So it's like kind of it cancels each other out. So
I want to say I think Scott is making a very good point about the giant band that Cassandra has. Because we've been led to believe that she's doing everything on her own. She makes these little flyers that are just typed up. Like she's getting no support from the band. So are they all hired musicians? And where did she get the money for that?
And where did she find them?
And she didn't pay them, and certainly they're not helping her keep her house.
So, like the band, Cassandra's band, and the shells that were being collected on the beach are both basically impossible in reality. Is what?
Well, and it's funny because you watch this movie and you think about the value of the dollar over time. It's like this $1 million is the prize, which is going to set you up for life. I don't know what that is or how to turn it.
I love that happens.
And then of course $3,000 will save her house. It's like $3,000 is not enough to rent an apartment in Los Angeles right now. No. And so it's funny you think about that stuff. Soundtrack of the movie. Oh yeah.
Although like 1980s Nantucket, I mean, I can see maybe a mortgage on a busted up old house like that one is being $3,000, maybe.
But they're trying to earn that much off of a band, and of course she didn't pay anybody else. They just took all the door money.
Yeah, right.
That's what band leaders always do. My wife could tell you stories. So she goes to the bank.
Yeah.
And this guy who was like used for a vaguely racist joke during the Godzilla a moment tells her no, he's still.
I don't know that it was vaguely, but I appreciate you saying that.
In the 80s, people didn't really pick up on that, like as being racist. It's just like a Godzilla joke. Anyway, so now once he won't give her the house back, even though she earned all the money. The only way for her to get the house back is for John Cusack and his friends to win the regatta, which will destroy. Like if they win the regatta, then Grandpa's cutting off son and grandson in Teddy and Niedermeyer. So they don't have a boat. So Ak, aka Booger, gets him a boat, and what do we have?
We have to have
it. Yeah, go for it.
The 80s music sequence of fixing stuff up. It's like it's classic, and it's the
music montage. Like this is the A-Team every week.
Yeah. It was every week and a bunch of movies, like not just this one that you would have this in.
I love, if you love 80s music montages, I highly recommend The Secret of My Success.
Oh yeah.
With Michael J. Fox, because the whole fucking movie is montages. This and Flashdance. Flashdance is
Yeah.
also all montages. It's got
Well,
no
if you want another summer regatta where they have to spruce up the boat and have the underdog win, is John Candy and Summer Rental.
Oh, of course. Oh shit, I forgot about that. Jeff brings up a good point. He says the soundtrack in this movie is pretty good. Twisted Sister, Eurythmics, ZZ Top. Totally agree. I was watching it, and my poor wife has the COVID, so she's sequestered in another room, and she kept hearing these songs coming from the other room. She's like, "Oh, this movie's got great songs,"
and especially at the very end, the Honeymoon Suite song, which is actually pretty touching. At the very, very end, right about the credits, the Honeymoon Suite, if that's what it takes. Actually, it's a pretty sweet song to end the movie with. It definitely had a nice soundtrack. I mean,
oh yeah, the soundtrack's killer. I mean, just the Eurythmics alone, like,
oh yeah,
people wouldn't have that song in a movie now because it would be way too expensive.
I'm serious. I was like, that's the thing. And of course, you think about things from your current point of view. And I was listening to this music, and I'm like, God, this is where all the money went.
But it didn't. I mean, it's so
it's like these were current songs at the time.
Also, like something. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I lament the death of the movie soundtrack. In the 80s, every movie that came out that I liked, I would buy a CD or a cassette tape that had all the songs from the movie. Sometimes it wouldn't have all the songs from the movie, because the more expensive ones wouldn't be on the soundtrack. But I just miss that. Beverly Hills Cop.
Yep.
That soundtrack album I can listen to that anytime. It always,
what's funny is, I mean, if you look back and you think about it, it's like that was a revenue stream for the picture. At that point, and a marketing expense at that too, because the soundtrack would often come out before the film would.
Right. Yeah. And all the end credits would say movie soundtrack available on Epic Records or wherever.
And what they would do a lot too is on St. Elmo's Fire. The big producer at the time was David Foster, and David Foster would write all this music, but then they get like Billy Squier to do a song, and they'd get all these famous people like Cheap Trick did the thing from Top Gun, but they didn't write the song, but they're like Cheap Trick's on this, but somebody else wrote it. So I think that was the way around it not being a hit. It's like the songs were written for the movie, became a hit from the movie, but I think the band probably got paid for the performance.
Right.
I don't know if this is true, but I feel like the band that opened the most movies in the 80s with their song playing over the credits or the opening sequence or whatever, the Pointer Sisters. So many movies start with a Pointer Sisters song.
It's a good point.
Interesting.
They're great. All right, let me take us through the end of this freaking movie. All right, so John Cusack, Hoop says, "I can't go on boats. I'm afraid of boats." And then Cassandra says, "Well, maybe that's because you haven't had a good experience on a boat." And I'm pretty sure that means
pop collar alert. Yeah, the pop collar. Anyway.
Yeah, he's got pop collar. Yeah. There it is. And then pop collar leads him to Bone and Demi Moore on a boat, and so then he becomes captain and wears his captain hat, and they show up at the regatta with their crazy montage made boat, and they do a dance to Martha and the Vandellas. Is that the song?
Yes, I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
Just one of my favorite moments, because the actors, they had to work this out. They did the whole choreography, they rehearsed it, and then the day came and they're on a moving boat and they're doing it, and they did it. I think they do a great job. It's very fun. It's very fun. Dancing in unison with choreography is always satisfying for me. That's why the Step Up franchise is probably my favorite movie franchise of all time. So they're doing that. Our bad guys are doing this. They've got the little alligators on their outfit.
Yep.
What was that? What's the name of that? With the
Izod, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, everybody had, all the jerks had the alligator shirts. And then there became a point where if you wore that, you would get the shit kicked out of you.
Hey, Todd, your video froze.
Oh,
we can still hear you.
We can still hear you though.
Yes.
Yeah. Then
Well, maybe.
yeah.
Hello. This is what happened a few minutes into the show last week, and so
Oh,
we'll
really?
see. Yeah, if Todd's thing is completely shut down on us,
I'm here. I'm
there he
here.
is. Hey, he's back. Never mind,
sorry.
everyone.
Sorry, it's just a hiccup. So the regatta begins.
Yep.
They got their crazy sailboat.
Wait.
And
can,
then
can
go ahead.
Should we mention the bully scene when what's his name drops off his car and
oh yeah, that's huge. Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, go right ahead.
yeah. So, oh God, what's his name?
Teddy.
The blonde
Teddy.
guy. Teddy. Yeah,
Teddy.
yeah. So Teddy drops his car off to the brothers, and the taller one comes in with a black eye and says, you know, Teddy wants his car, you know. And Bobcat goes, "Did he hit you?" Right? And he just walks off. So then the garage door closes, and you just see him with a chainsaw doing this, and that's the last you see of that scene. And it doesn't come back.
Yeah,
no.
That he's going to do something.
Yeah,
there is a reveal,
a bit of revenge for his brother being attacked.
Right.
But while they're out on the water, our Niedermeyer bad guy shoots their what's the rope called on the
halyard?
Halyard, yes. Yep. So they shoot that, and then our guy who's terrible at basketball has to take this shot with a metal weight to get it in the hoop up there,
which is this big.
The sail back up. It's tiny, yeah, it's really tiny. Right. And here's the shot of him shooting it.
And you can see he's made it, and the weight is right down there. Just
it's right there, and so they're all sort of amazed. And so they get the sail back. They're going, and bad guy Niedermeyer wants to do it again, and he fucks it up, and he falls off the boat, and he gets et by the by the rabid dolphin. This is my favorite shot in the movie. It's so fucking funny.
You know, he has kind of a Vincent Price thing going on there a little bit, and but yeah, this of course the out of control movie model that is wreaking havoc throughout the film.
And then it's got one of my favorite dumb effects is he's yelling at his son, "I'm going to turn you into stew if I ever get out of this thing," and it's just like static dummy legs sticking out of the mouth.
Yeah, right. It's like, yeah, it's completely intentionally fake.
They're static, but they're made to look like they're kicking, which is so funny to me.
And then, but who's behind it? The sister, the little sister,
right? Oh. Yeah, she pops out. Yeah, and then they start their engine. When they get to the engine part of the regatta. And they're going really fast, and Teddy and Ty and all the preppy nerds are like, "What the fuck?" And they go by like this. They give him a finger. This movie's rated PG, but we got a finger. Yeah. They're doing that, and then the reveal is that it's his Ferrari engine that's been turned into their boat engine. There's his vanity plate. See you later.
more product placement from Coca-Cola.
Yeah. So they win the regatta, and then I'll take you through. I have all these happy ending shots. So the first thing is, the little girl comes out of the rabid dolphin, and they're like, "Yeah, you're awesome." And then she sees her dog who's been in the hospital because the bad guys hit him, and he's accompanied by a bunch of puppies that are also messy and have the cone of shame on them.
which I thought was a hysterical touch. Actually, I was like,
yeah, it's adorable. It's funny and adorable. It's like, and the stuff, like all the stuff, all the happy endings that got tied up in these last few minutes of the movie are fun. So you get Ak and his dad. And his dad says he heard what you did, because Ak there's a one of the other boats, a guy falls off his boat because the bad guys are acting poorly, and Akak jumps in the water and saves him. And his dad hears about that and says he's a hero and he wants him to come home. So that's very sweet. And then they have a joke about, can I keep the bazooka? Let's talk about it over some hot chocolate, which is funny. And then there's a moment where Hoops runs into Teddy and says, hey, I'll give you this if you let us keep the house. And then William Hickey, without a cigar this time, busts in and says, I'm not giving you shit. I'm investing in friendship.
Which is actually the healthiest William Hickey's looked ever. in that particular scene. So,
because he's investing in friendship. That's why he looks good. It made him good. And then
and we have to say that he did that because he heard her music and he kind of
right.
Something in
That's
him,
right. He was in attendance at that show, right?
Yeah. He learned something from the music. That's great. William Hickey tells Teddy to fuck off, which is wonderful. And then, of course, the last shot before the credits start is a lovely. That's like a suck mouth kiss, man. Yeah. Look at that. Their faces are inside of each other. That's intense.
And this is, I think of scenes like this with John Cusack and the other leading ladies that he's worked with. And where he's like, this is destroying my career. It's like, you shut up.
Yeah.
because of that. You're getting to kiss people.
Yeah. Poor John.
I know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, woe is me.
Yeah. You got Demi Moore after, and then you're going to get Ione Skye, and you had Daphne Zuniga. Like, he had all the cute. What the fuck, man?
Yeah.
And then so the credits happen, and Uncle Frank, who's been appearing throughout the film, like having bad things happen to him because he's trying to win this contest.
Chain smoking. He calls in and he went. I have a clip. Of this post-credit or during credit sequence with Uncle Frank in the radio contest.
It's rock, money time. It's money time.
This is it. We're looking for caller number 50, 2 o'clock.
Hello?
You're on the air.
Hello?
Hello?
Is this the radio station contest?
I hope you're sitting down because you won $1 million.
Yes!
It's all yours.
Woo!
$1 million.
Oh, man, this changes everything.
What are you going to do with it?
Oh, man, I deserve it.
$1 million is yours.
Sitting waiting day after day for you to play
Hello?
a stupid song so I could hear it and that, and then I went and called you, and I won. Oh, this feels so good, so powerful.
Hello. We seem to be cut off here, so let's take another caller. Hello, you're on the air.
Did he win?
You sure did. This has certainly been quite a summer for you, huh? Oh, just a second. I see a rocket coming toward me.
Unbelievable. A what? A rocket?
My God.
There you have it. Hillary performed as Rich Little with COVID. How about that?
That was great.
Thanks. All right. Final thoughts on this movie. We'll start with Scott. What are your final thoughts about One Crazy Summer?
I was thinking during this, one of the litmus tests might be the reason it's a terrible movie is I could put somebody next to me to watch it and I'd be laughing my ass off and they just wouldn't get it, right? They would say this is stupid. It's like it's the kind of movie that you have to watch with somebody with a specific kind of humor, right?
Yeah.
Because you could see somebody going, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. But that's kind of the cult thing about it. And of course it's the, slobs against the snobs kind of thing.
Yeah.
The underdog coming through, but yeah, I still watch that movie, that and Better Off Dead. I just, I'm surprised that John Cusack's like, disowned those films, but they're cult classics. I mean, I would
Yeah.
say, right?
I agree with you. He's in a lot of cult classics from the 80s. I don't know why he doesn't like it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see in these films, and I agree with everything that Scott said. It is very specific. I was laughing at this movie, and you there are people out there that would be like, "What is this?" You know, and it would just be, But as far as Cusack goes, it's like you see that this guy is going to be a star. He's already a name at this point. Like he's the lead in this film, and he can open a movie at this point.
Yeah.
And so it's like, stop worrying, John. You're gonna be all right.
Yeah, I mean, for me in the 80s, I'll end it on this. I mean, and we all have our different feelings about John Cusack, the 50-something man that he is, and his politics and all that stuff. But in the 80s, he was my favorite. And he usually was doing stuff that wasn't John Hughes related. He was in 16 Candles. But as a lead actor, he was doing stuff that wasn't John Hughes. And for me, that was sort of an elixir because John Hughes didn't always work for me when I was a kid. Like I can watch The Breakfast Club now and appreciate it. But as a kid, I was like, this doesn't represent me at all. I don't understand these archetypes. I don't understand this bullshit. And so John Cusack in these absurdist comedies was he was the antidote for that for me.
Right.
And I still love Cusack. I will watch whatever. I'll watch Cell. I'll watch whatever straight to streaming movie he does. I've seen Frozen.
2012.
Fucking 2012 is my favorite disaster movie ever. That movie is bananas. I love it. We have to do that.
Jeff's come in with a read on John Cusack.
Cusack is just mad that Zoe Kravitz was a better Rob than he was in the TV show. In the movie.
Wow.
That's rough. I actually really like High Fidelity, the movie. I thought it was
That's
really
great.
High Fidelity is a good movie.
Like Gross Point Blank and High Fidelity was like a good late Cusack 1-2 punch. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so that wraps up that. We have to really quick do our ending segments, starting with Be Bad and Be Best. Both Mark and I are going to present a title, and we're going to ask Scott if he thinks it's so bad nobody should see it, or it's so bad everyone should see it.
Gotcha. I'll do my best.
Yeah, and you are the final word on this title. So feel the pressure. We'll start Be Bad, Be Best with Mark's selection.
Commando.
Yes.
Which is just, that entire series of Schwarzenegger, muscling up and getting guns and blowing the shit out of everything that he sees, starring the cute daughter, played by Alyssa Milano. And I just think that this movie we were talking about the tropes of this high school summer movies that we were just talking about. This is the tropes of the 80s action movies, all bundled into one with all the phrases, all the weird characters. And I just love this movie.
90 minutes and awesomely paced. Scott, is this Be Bad or Be Best for you?
I think I saw it once way back in the day. It's not for me. It's just bad. I mean, Alyssa Milano, that's probably the best part. But I didn't. I remember, saying I don't need to see that again. Kind
sure.
of like
it's not for you. I get it. I mean, for me, Commando is ridiculous. It's so stupid. At every turn, it's idiotic. And the quips are so bad. It's like dad joke quips, and they're like, he's dead tired. It's just so wonderfully bad. And this movie ruined Schwarzenegger movies for a long time after for me, because none of them reached this height of ridiculousness.
Oh, okay.
At least on the level of, I mean, this is just like cartoon level mayhem, and nothing like Raw Deal, Terminator 2, you name it, none of them got to Commando level ridiculous.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why they were more successful, movies ultimately. But
I mean, there's a scene in this film, the ridiculousness of this movie is Schwarzenegger, who is legitimately physically very strong at this point in his life. He is not strong enough to throw a pipe that punctures somebody's chest and through another steel pipe behind them, so that steam will come out of the pipe, and it's just like, and
blow off some steam,
blow off some steam. Yeah, it's like,
Oh, God.
any scene in an action movie where there's a character who's trying to move stealthily through a jungle or some other area and then sees a tripwire and stops. That's like every joke in this movie. Every action scene is a setup for Schwarzenegger to have a line like that.
Oh yeah, it's all like labored setups for bad quips.
It's not a Tuma.
Yes,
what about
yeah.
Kindergarten Cop? Yeah, that Kindergarten Cop is wonderfully bad, but Kindergarten Cop is more in the realm of One Crazy Summer than Commando is, because it's family friendly hijinks, and it's just funny that he's sweet and he's Arnold Schwarzenegger with children. It's
Right.
I like Kindergarten Cop. I think it's fun.
Yes.
But yeah,
and legitimately, the little kid in the scene who talks about a tumor, steals every scene he's in.
Yes, absolutely. My Be Bad, Be Best pick is Scott. I like to go on themes. I like try to build off of whatever movie we were talking about. So my Be Bad, Be Best selection is Hot Pursuit, starring John Cusack and the Stiller family. Have
the entire Stiller family's in this movie.
Well, it's two of the Stillers. Scott, is this Be Bad or Be Best for you?
God, I gotta say, I didn't know that movie existed. That's the first time I've heard of it.
It didn't do well. It tanked and did some business on VHS at the time, but it's the weirdest movie because it's like, I guess, kind of a romantic action comedy, but he's trying to get to his girlfriend who's on a boat with the Stillers. And the whole movie is like her on a boat, and then you see John Cusack dealing with, native people and stuff in these countries that he has to go to try and chase girls.
Oh my God.
Like, this is the one that doesn't make sense to me. It's like he got mad at Savage Steve Holland. He should have gotten mad at Hot Pursuit. This is a piece of shit movie. What is it for you, Mark? Did you?
I have not seen this movie, so I cannot.
Well, you can judge it according to this poster.
Well, that I would say Be Bad. Yeah, just because you and I have a very similar outlook on movies, so I think if you think it's
a description, just a description of I'm already bored.
Okay, so Hot Pursuit is Be Bad. Now I kind of want to watch it because obviously I own it on DVD, and I'm like, did I find it entertaining? You know what I found entertaining about it? The Stillers, especially Ben Stiller. Ben Stiller plays the douchebag preppy kid that's in all. He's hilarious because when Ben Stiller gets mad, it's funny. It's funny for some reason.
I know, right?
I will still crack up when the scene with oh God, I can't believe I'm blanking on the name. It's the film with him and Robert De Niro where he's marrying De Niro's daughter.
Meet the
Fockers.
Meet the Parents.
Before that,
Meet the Parents.
Meet the Parents. Yeah, where it's all falling apart and he's trying to board the plane and his suitcase won't fit in the overhead. The scene with the flight attendant is just thinking about it. I'm like internally cracking up here because he's like, he's doing his thing.
Yeah, he's so good at being mad. That scene made the rest of that boring movie worth watching.
Yeah.
It's not my thing. All right, let's do the boost. This is where Mark and I are going to say, hey, this is a movie we think you should watch. Maybe you don't know about it. It's positive vibes. We're ending on positive vibes.
Absolutely.
So Mark's title is this, another movie that I own on DVD. Time After Time, with David Warner and Malcolm McDowell.
Malcolm McDowell and Mary Steenburgen. Malcolm McDowell is H.G. Wells, who actually did invent the time machine and traveled to 1979 in pursuit of David Warner's Jack the Ripper, who, they proceed to travel through late 1970s San Francisco, which, long story short, becomes the inspiration for some of the things that Wells would return to the late 1899 and write about. And at the heart of this movie, though, is the relationship between Malcolm McDowell and Mary Steenburgen, which may or may not have contributed to them getting together in real life, because I believe they are still husband and wife, or if they're not, they were for a very long time. They were together. Well, no, she was Ted Danson.
Ted Danson, yeah.
Yeah. So I could be completely wrong, but at least in this movie, they have a really awesome kind of relationship. And just, Malcolm McDowell is the fish out of water, getting scared to death by the taxi ride through the hilly streets of San Francisco at 70 miles an hour. It's just a great film to watch. And Todd will tell you, it's like the last couple of things. There've been a lot of time travel movies that I throw his way, and a lot of this came from watching a featurette on Back to the Future. There's a special that Michael J. Fox did about time travel in the movies as part of marketing for, I think, Back to the Future 2. And this, along with Final Countdown and a lot of other movies where time travel was a story element. And you watch this movie and you're just like, Nicholas Meyer, Star Trek 2 and 7% Solution did this film, and it's just, Nicholas Meyer is a legit magician in some cases, because this movie doesn't look like he had a lot of money to do it. It actually looks very much like a TV movie, even though it was a feature film at the time. And it's just, I watch it over and over again. And it's just something I think if people haven't seen it, they would dig it. And, again, also for anybody, it's like, this is now a long time ago. So if you want to see kind of a different world, both for 1899 and 1979, this is one way to do it.
You ever seen it, Scott?
No.
I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it.
It's very fun. I'll say this about it. It does what good time travel movies do, and distracts you from the time travel with good characters, good relationships and good jokes. Because like Back to the Future, I think, is that, and Time After Time is that. It's when they're not good, you start seeing the holes in the
Final Countdown is not good in that respect. Yeah, Final Countdown
is, but Final Countdown goes so far into not understanding its own time travel rules that it becomes hilarious. What I'm talking about is like these, I think, comedy movies. And Time After Time is a comedy movie, I would say. Light in tone. We're about jokes. We're about relationships. And the time travel is an element of it. Then you don't get distracted.
Kind of a darker undertone to it, with the Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, with Jack the Ripper, absolutely. But I'm just saying that the narrative distracts you from the holes in the time travel thing. If a movie's slow at a certain point in Time After Time, you'd be like, well, you've got a time machine.
Right.
So we can fix this. It's very simple.
Yeah, it's not a problem.
You're this time. Go back again and don't make the same mistakes twice. It's easy. And if the movie cooks, then I don't think those things.
Right.
You know, a lot of time travel movies, including very popular ones, I can't like. T2 is actually a great example of a movie that has time travel that everybody fucking loves, and I'm the guy in the middle of it going, well, no, this doesn't make any sense because they all have access to fucking time travel. There's no reason. Oh, there's no reason for Joe Morton to die. There's no reason. He should. Fuck. That's why I like Speed more than T2 because
He has a great death scene though. Kind of the fish out of water.
he's so good. He's so fucking good. He's one of my favorite actors of all time. You know,
Yeah.
A Brother from Another Planet is like a perfect movie. Anyway, and like deeply underused, but every time he's used in movies in the 80s, 90s, and beyond, he always good. I mean, he's so good in Speed. He has the funniest line in Speed. You know,
Right.
when they realize that there's a hole in the freeway that they're trying to get out, and he's like, there's a fucking gap. You're fired. You're all fired.
Yeah.
He's so good in that movie. It's great stuff. All right, I'm gonna boost this, you guys. The third undersung, underappreciated, and underknown third movie in the Savage Steve Holland trilogy. Highly recommend this. You get amazing performances from Phil Hartman and Nora Dunn, SNL
Phil
people.
Hartman.
Yeah, I mean, they're so funny in this. Anthony Edwards is ludicrously sweet as Anthony Edwards can be. That's why he didn't want to keep doing Nerds movies because he realized I can be a sweet, father figure. Come on, I'm not a nerd. I love Anthony Edwards. This is totally tangential, but my favorite thing about Anthony Edwards is he did this movie called Miracle Mile, which is about nuclear holocaust taking place around the La Brea tar pits in LA. And he's in that movie with Mare Winningham. And they made the movie and they went their separate ways and lived their separate lives. And then recently there was like a festival thing where they screened Miracle Mile and brought the original cast back together. And Mare Winningham and Anthony Edwards fell in love in real life and then got married.
What?
Yeah.
I want to see this movie.
Miracle Mile is great. If you've not seen Miracle Mile, highly recommend.
I haven't.
Great indie movie. It's got so many great performances. It's got the lady from Star Trek and Pet Sematary is in it. She's good. And Kurt Fuller's in it. He's good. It's so great. But anyway, this movie, I would say if you like Better Off Dead and you like One Crazy Summer, you got to give this thing a shot. It's very funny. It's the same kind of silly. It's 90 minutes, same kind of silly humor, and it's totally delightful. And I'm sorry John Cusack was too much of a snob to be involved. He fucked this. He fucked Steve Holland. He fucked the Hot Tub Time Machine franchise. Stop fucking people, Cusack. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. You just like scorched earth, like, let other people
got people to vote for Jill Stein. It goes on and on. I want the best.
Your movie about a nuclear catastrophe in Los Angeles is my first thought as somebody who lives in Los Angeles is that would be the only way that rents would normalize. That would be
like if 2012 is real, then rents will drop.
Going to be back down to
Once
normal.
We're floating in the ocean. It'll be like, you guys.
What was the name of the gigantic city in Demolition Man? San Angeles, something like that.
Right,
yeah. That's what we're gonna get. Every restaurant is a Taco Bell.
Oh, I forgot about that movie. I like Demolition Man. That's a great shitty movie too. All right. Thank you guys so much for doing this. Scott, thanks for doing this. Is there I know you have your website, which is www.scottcarulli.com or Torelli, if you knew him when you were younger. We used to play basketball together, Mark.
We did.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. He was my dad's favorite kid. My dad loved Scott.
I couldn't. Yeah, that's That's amazing. I never knew that.
He does. He's ashamed of me, but he loves Scott.
Why can't you be more like Scott?
Yeah.
Why can't you be more like Scott?
Oh. Oh my God.
Did I freeze? Did I freeze? I'm freezing.
No, you're back. You're back.
Okay.
Are we
All right.
frozen
All
on the
right.
end now?
Let me end the show. Thank you so much, Mark.
Yes,
As
thank you.
always, we'll
Scott.
see you next week on your because Tracy's got a movie. So
She's
if you
doing a
can
movie.
you come
Yeah.
back next week? All right, great.
Yeah, yeah,
Mark will,
yeah.
Mark will be back next week, and I don't know who the guest will be. We'll see. Thank you all. Have a great night. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.